So I've just made my first stop. I've just dropped the anchor. I've got some baits prepared, and I like to keep a mixture of different baits. I've got some garfish, some yakkers, some pilchards, silver whiting, and squid. Going. Come on. There we go. Nice Port Phillip Bay red. There we go. We're heading out onto Port Phillip Bay today to chase a few snapper. It's a nice choppy afternoon. We're heading out off Altona boat ramp. There's a fair few cars and boats heading out. But hopefully we can get onto a few reds. We're going to set a few baits out, and fingers crossed we can find one or two of those Port Phillip Bay snapper. So I've just made my first stop. I've just dropped the anchor. I've got some baits prepared, and I like to keep a mixture of different baits. I've got some garfish, some yakkers, some pilchards, silver whiting, and squid. I don't really find one to be the best, but I like to keep a variety. Some days the fish will clue in on different baits, so it helps to keep a bit of a variety just to give the fish something different. So out here in Port Phillip Bay, the simple running sinker rig seems to be the most popular. And you can either use it with a sinker or without, and also with two hooks or a single hook. Now for big chunk baits like bits of yakka or bigger baits like the garfish or silver whiting, I like to opt for the double hook setup or the twin hook setup, just because they're big hard baits and they're a bit harder for the snapper to take in and crush down. Whereas if I'm using pilchards, then I tend to use a single hook setup, which I'll show you in a little bit. But first up, this right here, I'm going to put a silver whiting. Silver whiting are a nice tough bait, and they're really good on bigger snapper. So I like to put that first hook in behind the head, just like that. Then I'll roll this other hook around, and I like to put it in just in the stomach, but I like to sort of bury it in. And then I'm going to do a half hitch just over the body, probably about 3/4 of the way down. And then I'm going to do one more half hitch just in front of the tail there. And that's just going to keep it nice and straight in the current. I'll just untangle this bit of a mess I've got here. Now this right here I'm going to put out to the right. Pass that out. I always like to let a little bit of line out just to help that bait sink down. Click that bail arm over. I'm going to check my running drag, because these are the Daiwa Free Swimmer BRs. These are a bite and run style reel. So that's my main drag, just like most of the spinning reels you find. But I can also, if I want to, click it into bite and run. And what this does is it allows fish to pick up big tough baits like that silver whiting and not feel any pressure. They can take off with that, but I can be alarmed when that fish does take the bait of that line being taken off the reel and the ratchet going off. When I feel like the fish has taken that bait deep enough, all I need to do is give the reel a couple of winds. It'll click into the secondary drag, which is usually set a little bit higher. So it's a pretty nifty little thing to have on the reels. I really am a big fan of it, especially early season like we are now, where the fish are a little bit timid. There's a lot of boat pressure, and just having that little bit of an advantage can help on certain days. Now these reels come in two different sizes. They come in an 8,000 and a 10,000. This is the 10,000 here, and the other one I've got there is an 8,000. So they're both very similar in size. The 10,000 has a slightly deeper spool, but they've both got the same drag capacity, and that's at 10 kilos. So this one here, I'm going to put one of my favourite baits for snapper. I'm going to put a garfish. So I'm going to go in behind the head, just like the silver whiting. And I like to do this because snapper have a tendency to eat their baits or their food source head first or around the stomach area. So that hook being towards the front is going to give me the best opportunity to hook that fish. The second hook, like I said, I roll it around until that line in between goes tight. stick the hook in somewhere around the stomach, and then I'm going to do a half hitch halfway down, and then another half hitch just at the tip of the tail, and that's going to keep it all nice and straight. Now, as I was saying, these two setups have a twin hook setup or twin hook rig, and I also like to put a few glow beads on there. That just helps with attracting the fish in, especially when the light goes down a little bit. So I'll cast this one out in the middle there, same as the other one. Let a little bit of line out, flick that bail arm over, check the drag. So this is my main running drag. It's not too tight, it's not too loose, but I'm just going to snip it up a little bit more, just a touch more, and then I'm going to click the reel into bite and run, and hopefully a snapper will come along and snaffle that up. Now, I don't like to use too many rods. Some guys do like to use their 4 per person limit. I like to use 3. Sometimes I'll even run just 2. On this setup, same as the others, it's got a running sinker rig, but this one's got the single hook. And this is what I really like for baits like pilchard, where they're really soft and they're easy for the fish to inhale. They're really oily. So a single hook setup is more than enough to hook these fish. So I like to go in to the center, thread that hook through, go in behind the head like those other 2 baits, pull that hook out, pull the line up semi-tight, do 1 half hitch 3/4 of the way down, and another one right at the very end, and cast this bait out. I'm going to cast this one out to the left. Now this reel doesn't have the bite and run system, but like I was saying, because pilchards are really soft, I like to use just the traditional spinning reels. This is a BG 3000 with some 20-pound J thread nylon as the main line. 20 pound seems to be a really good size. That's what I run on all of my outfits, 20-pound J thread nylon. Now, as you're waiting, it's really helpful to chuck out a little bit of burley, especially if you've marked a few fish up like we have. So what I'm going to do is chuck in a little bit of burley and just try and attract those fish towards the baits. I've anchored a little bit up from those fish, so I want the fish to really come towards the baits where they are, or where they've just been cast or hit the bottom. So I always like to keep some old bits of bait. This is some bait from a couple of sessions ago, and instead of throwing it in the bin, pilchards are really oily, so they'll double up as burley, and it all goes back into the ecosystem. This will not only feed the fish but also attract them into our baits, because we're not going to put a lot out. Grab another pilchard, chop that up, so I can see my lines are drifting or sitting more to the left hand side of the boat. So what I'm going to do with this burley, instead of throwing it out just anywhere and everywhere, I'm going to throw it out to the right. And what's going to happen when that burley hits the water, it's going to start to drift towards those baits. So I'm going to throw it as far to the right as I can, and that way I'm in around 8 to 9 meters of water. It'll give it plenty of time to drift down, hopefully somewhere near where those baits are sitting. So we've just made a bit of a move. I've come in a little bit shallower. Might be a little bit too calm for the shallows tonight, but I've just got a theory that the fish are going to come in and feed over those shallow reef areas. So I've moved in a little bit closer to the shore. I'm going to put a spread of baits out, and fingers crossed there'll be a snapper out there. We've marked a couple on the sounder, but it's just a matter of getting them to bite. So fingers crossed with fresh bait and the free swimmers, we'll be able to tempt a snapper or two. Pass that bait out. So I've got a squid head here. What I'm going to do, this was caught a couple of days ago. I'm going to go through just like that. Might even go through one more time, just like that on the top hook. And then on the second hook, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in between the eyes and come out like that. Now squid is a really good bait, especially on snapper. They love squid. It has a distinctive smell, I think, from what I've spoken to a few other anglers. It's got its own smell, and when it's fresh, works really well. Sometimes I've had sessions out here where one bait will work better than the other, but squid, especially when the bite's a little bit quiet like it is tonight, being a little bit calmer, can sometimes tempt those more fickle fish. So I'll let a little bit of line out, flick it into bite and run, just check the tension. Might just snip that one up just a little bit and pop that in the holder. I've got one more rod. I'm going to put an oily pilchard on that last outfit, chop up a bit of burley, and hopefully the snapper will come through and find one of those baits. Okay. One here's getting a bite. Squid, straight away. There we go, come on. I think we're on. There we go, we're on. Woohoo! Doesn't feel like a big fish, but that squid has worked its magic. Just heard that free swimmer, the bite and run system, take off. Allow that fish to come and grab that squid head. And it gave me a bit of time to catch up to that fish. Once I felt like the fish had that bait deep enough, I just wound into it, struck, and it's come up tight. That's good fun. And here he comes out the back. Just back that drag off a little bit more when they get close to the boat. You want to take it nice and easy. Go in and grab the net. And there we go. Got ourselves a nice little juvenile snapper. This rod just had a bite. It's going. Come on. There we go. We're on tight. This seems like a good fish. Listen to that go. We've hooked up to a red, I think. Fingers crossed. This is on that silver whiting. Not really pulling too hard, but early in the season sometimes these fish, especially if they've taken the bait down deep, won't fight really hard. Oh, look at that. Woohoo! There we go. Nice Port Phillip Bay red. There we go. How good is that? Lovely Port Phillip Bay snapper. Too much fun. I'll just bring up this anchor. Go in a bit closer to the shore. Turned out to be a really nice evening out here on Port Phillip Bay. Can't complain with the weather. It's actually getting a little bit warm for this jacket at the moment.